and then you make a forecast, right? So this is what forecasting is. So forecasting is very, very common, and forecasting has a lot of application in business management, right? So what we do is here we look at the past trends and we make a forecast for the future. Okay, so the exercise is similar to the one that we had done in regression and all those, but here the exercise is done in a different way, right? So it is just like we saw in the regression. We had a regression line, and there was, we were predicting the sales, or we were predicting the exam scores, or we were predicting stress, or we were predicting anxiety, whatever you would want to. Similarly, we make those kind of predictions here. So there are different techniques of forecasting. So we'll look at the first technique, which is called as moving averages. Okay. So let's assume that we are given a task where we are to do a forecast based on moving averages. Now pay attention. If you not pay attention, then again you will be a loser. Okay. On this side, I have the weekly sales. So this is week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This could be in the form of years, it could be in the form of months, it could be in the form of days. That's immaterial. Okay. That's immaterial. The point is that on this side you will have the timeline, and on this side you will have some data. Now in my case, I have the sales data. This could be advertising data. This could be any other data. Okay, so I have this data, and this data is, I've just, to make the calculation simple, I've done away with the zeros, and I've just mentioned that it is in thousands. Okay, so this is 12,000, 14,000, 13,000. Okay, so this is my data. So it's 12,000 rupees, 14,000 rupees, 13,000, 19,000. I have to make a prediction. I have to make a forecast for the ninth week. I have data for the eighth week. The process will remain the same. If you have to do it for 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, just try to understand this. Okay. So this is the first week, this is the second week, this is the third week, fourth week, and so on. Let's assume I am given a task where I have to do a forecast, okay, based on moving average. And the moving average is that I have to do a forecast taking a 2 weeks moving average. What does this mean, 2 weeks moving average? That means I have to start my forecast from here, and I have to take the first 2 weeks moving average. What does it mean? 12 plus 14. And what is 12 plus 14? What is the average of 12 plus 14? Yes, class?
13.
13.
So this will be equal to 13. Sorry, 13. 26. Then the moving average for the next two will be how much? 14 plus 13, how much would that be?
13.5.
5.
13.5.
13.5.
13.5. And then the next one, 13 and 19.
21.
17 to 21.
70.
21.
How,
Sorry.
why would it be 21?
So 17.
70.
13 plus 19, an average of 13 plus 19.
So it will be 16.
Sorry, 12 plus 14, we get the first average. 14, 13, we get the second one. 13 plus 19, we get this one. So we move one, we move one step down, right?
It will be
Yes,
16.
16.
16. 16.
16. On the next one,
17.
17. Okay, and the next one,
19.5.
19.5.
19.5.
19. And the next one,
23.
So 24. So 24.
24.
20.
And for the ninth week,
That will be 23.5.
Yes.
Yes, sir. It will be 23.5 and next one will be 24. That's the next
24.
one.
Next
will be
one is
24.
24.
okay. So this is called as a, now we have done the forecasting. So that means the sale in the ninth month will be 24. So this is what we call as the 2 weeks moving average. We have taken 2 weeks moving average. Now, in case we were given a task and we were told to calculate for 3 weeks, then how would we do it? And where would we start? We'd start from here, right?
12
So the
plus
first
14
average of first 3 weeks, the values are going to come here. Then the next three, they're going to come here. Then the next three, they're going to come here. So then the next three, they're going to come here, and we'll forecast. We'll be able to. So this is how the calculations are done. So I hope if you get something like this in your exam, you don't mess it up. Okay, it's there is no statistics involved here. It's simple maths, elementary maths, which probably as class 6 or class 5th student would be able to do. So there's no rocket science involved there. Okay, so this is your moving average. This the one which is in red is your moving average for your ninth week. Okay, now there are certain errors which are computed, okay, in this. So let's look at how those errors are computed. So let's look at the first type of error. Okay, so let's look at the first type. So let's look at the error. So what is the error? That is your actual and the forecasted. So your actual sales in this third month. So for the first 2 weeks we don't have the forecasts. Okay, so we'll start computing the errors from here. So 13 minus 13,
0.
0, and 19 minus 13.5,
5.5.
5.5.
5.5, and then 15 minus
1.
6,
Minus 1.
Minus 1.
1, and 24 17,
7.
7.
7, and 23 and 19.5,
3.5.
3.5, and this is what
1.5.
1.5.
1.5. Okay, so these are your errors. So I'll just call them as errors. These are why do we call them as error? Because this is your forecasted value and these are your actual values. So these are your errors. So we call them as error. But what we are interested we are interested in absolute errors. We are not interested in plain errors. So what we do is we just make them absolute. So this all these values we can use the absolute command, ABS command, or you can simply just write them like this: 0, 5.5. Okay, so remove the negative sign and that's it. 7, okay, and 3.5 and 1.5. 1.5. Now what is our error square? There is something called as error square. So we'll just square these, and so this will continue to be 0, and this is why it has become this, right, is error square like this. So this means this is error squared, and why it has taken a formula, I don't know. I'm not interested in all these values. Why it has done this? Okay, so this is 0, and this is just square this. So this is equal to, sorry, this is equal to 5.5 hat. I need to serve the hat and 2. Okay, so this is the square for this.
30.25.
Yes, 30.25.
Yes, sir.
So this is correct, right? And then I can take the sum, and the sum is I just write sum, and my formula for sum is this. I'll include the sum from here to here. Sum of all the errors. So I'll squared errors, sum of squared errors. So this is called as the sum of squared errors. So this becomes your, if I were to take the mean sum of squared errors, so this would be, so my MSE, mean sum of errors, would actually be, it's very simple, is equal to 94. And how many values are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I would say that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this divided by 6, I would get the mean sum of a square. Now I want to find out the root mean sum of a square. So RMSE. RMSE. What I'll do is I'll just take the is equal to the SQ. I'll use the SQRT square root and this number and hit the button, enter. So my RMSE is 3.97. Okay. Now there is something else which is called as Many people call this as MAPE. This is absolute percentage error. So now what we have done is we have calculated this in terms of numbers. We can do it in terms of percentages. So if you were
Excuse
to,
me, sir.
yes,
What is RMSE?
root mean square of errors.
Okay.
So we have taken the under root of this. How do this is your sum of squared errors. Okay, this is your SSE. This first is your SSE.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is MSE, that is the mean of this. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you divide this by 6 and you get the mean. RMSE, that is the root mean squared error. You just take the under root of this. That's it. So it's so simple. Okay. Then there are some other things that you could possibly do, and those is what you call as, you can calculate the absolute percentage errors. Okay, so mean absolute percentage error would mean that you will divide everything. So here, if you were to take the mean, it would actually be your this value, or this the error is basically 0. So what you will do is, at 0 by 13 will ultimately be 0. So you just this column remains 0. But if you look at this is going to be, what is your error? 5.5. Or I'll just take this, the absolute error. Okay, so 5.5 divided by your actual predicted, your sales, which is 19, and just multiply this by simple 100, you will get the percentage. Okay, so this is in the form of percentages, so you can get these percentages. Now what you can do is, if you want to find the mean, so this is your, you need to have the sum. Your sum would be SUN. Calculate the sum of all these. Sorry, I just look at the,
The
so
bracket.
yes, yeah, sum I need to put in the bracket. So sum is actually the sum of all these, and I just hit the button enter, so I get the sum. If I want to find the mean, I need to, which is the MAP. If I need to find this, so what I need to do is I need to divide this by the total number. So this divided by 6. So I'll get the mean absolute. So this is in percentage. Okay, so MAP is always about the percentage errors. So I'll just write this here as percentage. So this is basically your mean is your 14.3302. Okay, now to do this problem, one is you can do a simple manual calculation like this. Okay, or else what you can do is you can simply, do something different, and that is, you can actually go to data, and you can go to data analysis, and then you can go to this moving averages. Okay, and you can go to your moving averages, you hit the button OK, you select the data. So your data is basically the sales data. You are interested in the sales data. Labels in the first row. Your interval is 2 because you want to do a 2 weeks moving average, and this is your output range. So you want an output range. Okay, so you just select somewhere here, and you hit the button OK. So it gives you these values.
Excuse me, sir. We
सर
can't
आप
Yes.
see the
स्क्रीन
dialog box.
एग्जैक्टली आपकी स्क्रीन में डायलॉग बॉक्स नहीं दिख रहा था.
Yes, sir. Please share the whole screen.
Okay, let me just share the whole screen. Hold on. I think I've used the option of right. So let's assume that I have. I'll just delete this. Can you see my screen now? Yes,
Yes, sir.
class.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
my screen is like this. I have to calculate the moving averages. I can go to data analysis, and in data analysis, I will scroll down. After histogram, I have something called as the moving averages. I can use this. I'll hit the button OK. I can select the data. So my data is the sales data. So I've selected this. Labels in the first row. What is my interval? My interval is, I'm going to do for 2 weeks moving averages. I could have done the same thing for 3 weeks, 3 weeks moving averages. I could have done so. This interval would have become three if it is 3 weeks moving averages, four if it becomes 4 week move. So in my case, I want to do a 2 weeks moving averages. And where do I want the output? I want the output to be a very specific place, and my output should be here because I am doing it 2 weeks moving averages. So I put this cursor here and I hit the button OK. And in fact, what it has done is I need to just cut paste these values and I need to bring them here, starting from the third week onward, which is exactly the same. So this is something that you have to do. So what you will get is you will get the fourth week. Now there are two ways to interpret this. One, we are doing it for the ninth week, right? So we are doing a interpretation for the ninth week. So either like I have done is I've just cut and pasted here. Else, let's assume that you have done an exercise and I'll just delete this. I'm just making it simple for you. So try to understand and then don't get confused in the exam. So moving averages, I click and let's assume that you have chosen, you forgot where you need to put it. So let's assume that you have put the cursor here and you hit the button OK. So you are actually doing a prediction for the ninth week because there's nothing else here. Ninth is vacant. So the last value will be for the ninth week. So if you want to remember it this ways, you can do it this way. So your last value will be for the ninth week. So for the ninth week, the value is going to be 24. But since you may be asked to do some further computation. So what is the best way to do it? Just cut Control X and paste it in such a way that the last value comes in this column, so that it is against the ninth week. So just cut and paste it like this. And once we do it like this, this actually is the prediction for the ninth week. So you can see, okay. Now, in order to calculate the errors, you can just go ahead and do it the same way. Your errors, like we have done. So errors, we will do it like this. This minus this will be your 0, and we can simply do it like this. We can just drag and drop. No, not drag and drop. It won't be a drag and drop. Yes, it can be done.
Yes,
This
sir, it can be done.
and this. No, I was just thinking it was moving averages. This minus this. Okay, so it is. You get the values, and you can just simply drag them till here. Now, why don't we drag it till 24th? Because there is no error term. This is the one that we are predicting, right? So this is the one that we are predicting. So what is I mean, there is no corresponding value here, so there can be no error. This is the one that we have predicted. So we'll only have these values. Okay. So you have these in minus. What you can do is you can simply come here and you can just write, if you want to just convert them into absolute,
So,
just write yes.
so for the moving average, we have to select these both rows, no, weeks and sales both, or we have
But
to select either
you have
one.
to select only the sales. Why do you have to select the weeks?
Okay. And so for the input range, it could vary according to the question. Like here, you took 2 as a input range. Sorry,
Interval.
interval. Yes.
Yes. If it is 3 weeks, 3. If it is 4 weeks, 4. Okay. Is that
Okay.
clear?
Okay, sir.
So what I have done is, now the next step was that these are error, but you will get some errors in minus. So in this case, we have got one error in minus, but there could be many errors which would be in minus. We are interested in the absolute number. So what we'll do is we can use the ABS command, absolute, and we can just scroll down till here. So all our numbers are going to become in absolute numbers. That means we don't have any what we call as plus minus. Now we are going to calculate error square. Error squared. Okay, so we'll calculate the error square. If we calculate the error square, so this is going to become equal to this column, this particular cell, hat, we'll use hat, and 2. So that is the square. So square for 0 is 0, and then we'll just drag it down till here. So this gives us the error square term for all these values. Now, important thing to remember here is you need to take the mean for this. And when you take the mean for this, I'll just write it here. You'll call it that mean squared errors. Okay, so mean squared errors would be equal to, you'll write equal to, and you'll just take the sum of these and just open the bracket, and the sum of these, close the bracket, and this is divided by, either I can do a count or I can just simply count. There are not so many, there's a very few numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I just divide this by 6. So this becomes 15.79. I have to find the root of this, so which is called as the root mean square. You might be asked in the exam to calculate the root mean square. So you just simply equal to SQRT. So you write the square root, okay, SQRT and this number and enter. So you get the RMCA. Okay. So this, the next step that you can actually calculate is something called as MAPE. Okay, MAPE. And so MAPE value, how do you compute the MAPE value? You can simply compute it. It is nothing but the, here we have calculated the errors, absolute errors. Here in MAPE you will calculate the percentage error. Okay, so it's again mathematics, no rocket science. So what you're going to do is you're just going to write it zero, sorry, this, and here you have the error is 0 and your total forecasted value for this is 13. So it should have been actually 0 by 13. So this is going to become 0. Okay, so I'll just put it like this divided by this particular value and star 100. Okay, so in this case this is going to become 0. I just I'll drag it down. So this is the total value. So if I now want to sum it, I can simply sum it like this, equal to the sum. I'll just sum all these values up. I made the same mistake. I need to go back. I need to come here, and what I need to do is I just need to write sum. I need to open the brackets, and I need to just, so actually a 0. So just first delete this. I'll just delete this. This is equal to this divided by 30 star 100. Okay, so this was basically the formula. So I've already used this formula. Now I want to do a sum for this. So my sum for this is going to be equal to sum. Always remember to put in the bracket, otherwise you have a lot of, okay, and you just need to close this and you get the sum. So the sum of percentage errors, absolute percentage errors, is this, and this is the sum of absolute percentage errors. Okay, so your individual percentage errors is this, and this is the sum. Now you want to find the mean average percentage error. So what would this mean? This would mean that you have to take this value, and how many counts are there? 6 is divided by 6. So you get your MAPE value, and this MAPE is, or your mean average percentage error, is actually in your percentage terms. Okay, so this is how you do it. So if you get something like this in the exam, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and you are asked to calculate RMCE, you are asked to calculate the MAPE, you can do it like this. It's so simple. Okay, so there is no statistics involved here in this. There's no statistics involved. The only thing that is involved is some basic common sense and your understanding of maths, which you might have studied in class 3rd or 4th. Nothing beyond that. Okay, so this is how it is done. It's not so difficult. You just need to understand that if we have to calculate the moving averages, you can do it manually rather than using that moving average function in this. So it's so simple that you can actually do it manually.
Hello, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, on the basis of this data, how can they predict that what is the sales in week 9, 10, 11? How can you predict this?
Once this has been done, what you can do is you can use this for the 9th week. So you are actually predicting, So what you can
I
do
want
is,
to know what is the sales of 9th, 10th, 11th week.
for the 9th, 10th, 11th week, you can input these predicted values, and you can just drag it down, and you can, so it will, but you need the data here for this. For the, if you are talking of 2 weeks or 3 weeks, so you need to have this data here. So what will happen here is you will have the same set of data. So you can actually, if you want to put this data, you can put this data here. Okay, and then you can make a prediction. But this data will again be based on the basis of this predicted data. So that is how you can continue. Okay.
Oh,
But
okay, sir.
so you need the data here also. Okay. But in your exam, or the question is always going to be prediction for 1 week only. Okay. So if it is data is given to you for the 8th week, your prediction will be for the 9th week. If the data is given to you for 10 weeks, the prediction is going to be for the 11th week. If the data is going to be given to you for 12 weeks, the prediction is going to be for the 13 weeks only. Okay, so always remember that, and don't get confused in the exam. Okay, so this is the forecasting that is done. It's very simple. Now there's something called as forecasting using exponential smoothing. Okay. Now, what is this exponential smoothing? I'll show you something. Uh, let's look at this COVID cases. Okay. COVID cases. And let me just, so we get this. Can you see the slide? Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What
Yes,
do you
sir.
see here? What do you see here? You can see that these are the cases for each of the day. I am scrolling. Okay, can you see those cases?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
But
Yes.
if you were to look at this closely, this is basically a histogram for each of the days. For every day, the cases are numbered, right? So your histogram, you know how the histogram looks like. But what is happening is you are seeing a smooth line also. You can see a smooth line, right? The one which is in dark blue. Can you see this line?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
how did we arrive at this line? How did we smoothen the histogram? So if you look closely, you can see here. If I look closely, I can see that there are some values which are even up. You can see the values. Like you can see here, right at the peak, you see there is a one light blue spike which is above the smooth that yellow dark blue line. Can you see that?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And similarly, you can see it here also. Here, and here. So in stock markets, or in wherever you have these kind of curves, so when you draw the lines, what you do is you use a line to smoothen the curve, so it gives you more smooth prediction. Okay. Now you use certain what you call as values, how smooth you want the curve to be, and it varies from 0 to 1, and it is called as alpha. Alpha is basically the smoothing coefficient that you use, and and the alpha would ultimately decide how smooth your curve is, or how jagged your curve is. Okay, so I'll just show you an example. We'll take the same data. Okay, we'll take the same data, but I'll show you how to do it with the help of a template. So in the template, we have a template called as exponential smoothing. Okay, just open up this template. It's there. I have uploaded the template yesterday. So this template is here, and this is the timeline that is given on this. The first value that you see is t, and this is a timeline that has been given: 1 2 3. It could be for 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 1 day, 2 day, 1 year, month, whatever. So you have to relate this with your problem, and these are the values, the forecasted values. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to delete this. We are going to delete all these values. Okay, so I'm just going to delete all these values which are here, because I need to bring in my values. So I'll just delete them. Okay, simply delete these values. You go back to your Excel file, just copy your data. So remember, these are in thousands. So we'll just copy this, Control C, bring it back to our exponential smoothing, and we'll put the value here. By default, you can see there is an exponential smoothing W, which is also called as the alpha. This coefficient is given as 0.4. So what it has done is, if you look at the actual forecast, if you look at this map, oh sorry, this is graph, you can see this is this is the actual. Okay, and this is the forecasted using an exponential smoothing of 0.4. If I were to change this, if I were to make this coefficient as 0.4 to zero point 0.6, you'll see that the curve has suddenly become different. Okay, so this is actually used to predict or forecast, used on the basis of a coefficient, okay, which smoothen the curves. How smooth the curve is dependent on your W or the alpha. So if I were to change this to, let's say, 0.3, I am just changing it to 0.3. Okay, I change, and as soon as I hit the, please keep watching the graph. I hit the button now 0.3, and suddenly you see it has become much more smoother, right? It has become much more smoother. But you look at the forecast. The forecast here is 20. If I use a W of 0.5, watch the graph and watch this value. Watch this value, which is at the last for the ninth week, which is 20.9079. So I change this to, let's say, 0.6, and I hit the button enter. The graph becomes different, and this value is now 23.82. Okay, so if I were to use a very conservative estimate, I will use a lower alpha. If I want to use a higher, or I want to be less conservative, I'll choose a higher alpha. But you know, the I should say, what happens when you choose a lower alpha or W, this becomes much more smoother. Okay, and if I choose a higher W, what happens? This 0.6 is higher than zero point 0.3. If I were to choose 0.6, what happens? This becomes much more. So if I were to choose an alpha of, let's say, 0.9, look at this. So if I choose an alpha of 0.9, it is actually becoming very close to the predicted ones. You can see for yourself, you know, the pattern that it is following. But again, this is based on some sort of forecast. Okay, so if you look at this, it has taken, this is 12 and this is 12. So that means what it has done is it is actually doing a 2 weeks, what we call as forecast. Okay, so this is 12 and this is 12, but it was initially, this was 12 and 14. You need not bother about this in your your exponential smoothing. So think of this from an, let's talk of an exam perspective. The exam perspective is, if you get a problem like this and you are asked to make a forecast using exponential smoothing, you will be given two things. One, the data set. So you will be given data in this format. Okay, so let me just delete all this. Let's say you will be given the data like this. Okay, so you will have the data. You will not be asked to forecast for any particular week. Okay, you will be just give, you will just have to copy this data, and you will have to bring this data and just paste it here. Okay, as soon as you paste it here, you will get the forecast for the ninth week based on the exponential. But there will be something else which will be given to you, and that will be your W or alpha. Remember, now it might be written as alpha, so you can think of W as alpha. Okay, so you can just write this as whatever value that has been given to you. If it is 0.5, you enter 0.5 here, hit the button OK. So if you are asked to forecast on the basis of exponential smoothing and the alpha is given, you will be asked to forecast for the ninth week. So you can see the values are there for the ninth week, which is 23.1875, which is different from what we had calculated when we were using the simple 2 weeks moving average. Okay, so that was, I think, 21 or 24, whatever it was. So here it is 23.1875. You may be asked this for the ninth week using exponential smoothing. Okay, so if exponential smoothing word is given, that means you will be given a W value, which is also called as alpha. You just need to put it here. Now, mean absolute error, mean absolute percentage error, and mean squared errors, they're already given to here. Okay, so those values are already computed to you here, like we had done the computation. So for example, if you are asked mean absolute percentage error, just write this, the one which is in red. This is the mean absolute percentage error, so write this. If you are asked the mean squared errors, write this. If you are asked the root mean squared error, you just take an under root of this and write this. If you are asked absolute error or absolute deviation, so you can just write this value. So just need to write these values, and that's it. And
Excuse me, sir.
yes,
Sir, if we don't have value for alpha, then what value we will take?
no, you will be given a value of alpha.
Okay, sir.
There's no point in, there will be no exam where you will not be given you will not be given a value of alpha. Okay,
Okay,
so
sir.
if you are to, if the problem is on exponential smoothing, so there are two ways to look at it. Now I want all of you to pay attention, and otherwise, in the exam I won't be there to help you. So here you need to pay attention. Either it will be, the exam will say that it is an exponential smoothing question. Okay, so the question will explicitly say that use exponential smoothing. Okay, or if you find there is the word alpha is given, okay, alpha, and it is about forecasting. Now alpha is given in your, alpha is also the significance level, so don't get confused with that significance level and start doing a t-test here. Okay, so it's nothing to do with t-test here. In this case, if an alpha is given to you and the word is forecasting is used, you know it's going to, it's all about exponential smoothing. So the question may be very simply that use an alpha of 0.6 and make a forecast using the following data. Okay, so you will use that data, you will just copy paste that, you will first delete the data which is present in your exponential smoothing template. So your template is exponential smoothing, you will just delete the data and input your old your data. If they're asking you for the 9th week, depending on the data, here the data is for 8 weeks only, so the only way the only thing that they're going to ask is for the 9th week, because there's no data here, right? But let's assume you were given 10 weeks, you will be asked to do it for 10 weeks. The 11th week, if you are given 11 weeks, you will be asked to do it for the 12th week. Let's assume so. Okay. If they ask you mean absolute error, MAE means mean absolute error. We have just computed the mean absolute error. 13 minus 13 is 0. 19 minus 13 is 6. And they are only talking in terms of absolute. That means even if it is negative, doesn't make any difference. Okay. So what they have done is, this is absolute error. You can see the bars on both the side. It means absolute. So these are absolute, means without any plus minus sign. And we know that without any plus minus sign is actually plus. Now, so this is what you call as the absolute errors. When you sum them up and you take a mean of these, the sum, as you can see, is 22.375. Right at the bottom where my cursor is, you can see 22.375, and you divide this by 6, you get an average of value of 3.729. So you simply know that this is the this is the average is 3.72917. So you can see it from here itself, right at the bottom. Okay, similarly absolute percentage errors. So what we have done is, we have computed this in the form of percentages. Okay, so this is your, and when we take the sum of these, which is 102.29, and we look at the count is 6, we divide this by 6, it becomes 17.05%, which is here itself. So in your exam, you may be asked any one of these values. Okay, and let's assume you are asked about RMC, RMSE, that is your root mean squared error. So you have to take an under root of 22.1589. Okay, so remember, you may be asked to compute either the MAPE or the MSE. Okay, or the MAE. The way to compute these are very simple. This is nothing to do with statistics. Okay, it is not like you are using a t-test, or you are doing something. It's simple basic maths. Okay, so I hope that you don't end up making any mistakes in this. So these are two simple examples that we have done.